Hi everybody, this is Aaron Murakami, and today is January 20th, 2015, and with me today I have Eric Dollard on the phone. Can you hear me okay, Eric?
Yep.
Okay, well we're going to go ahead and do a little update interview call here. I think the last one we did was maybe sometime early December or something. It's on my YouTube account. And so you and Justin have been working out in the field, and we're making a lot of progress with getting a lot of old telephone lines and cross arms and insulators and all that kind of stuff, and just loading up so that that stuff can be used on the seismic project near your lab on all the telephone poles. And then suddenly you had something happen where you had to get to the VA hospital to have some surgery done on your eye.
Yeah, well, right in the middle of the project, I went blind in one eye.
Uh-huh. And so how's
a scary situation.
And that was a detached retina?
Yeah.
And so they were able, at least VA was able to cover.
Well, it wasn't the VA, so veterans.
Oh, it wasn't? Okay.
No, the Veterans Hospital is not a place you want to go if you really need anything right away, because they're not really going to help you. So, in fact, sometimes it turns the other way around. I've had some horrors in my life in being associated with the VA, so the only thing I could do was go to the local emergency room and have them ascertain that indeed this was the problem, and then I was rushed off to a private facility which used a county hospital to do the work, the emergency surgery on Christmas Day. And then the question is, how am I going to pay for it?
Uh-huh.
So apparently the Veterans Administration is willing to pay for the work, but I still don't know exactly what kind of surprises are ahead for me. So at any rate, so far the retina has remained detached, but the eye is not usable because of the healing process and what have you.
Uh-huh.
So it just brought everything to a complete standstill right in the middle of the height of the project.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we did make good progress. So we got one of the two lines, the one which is basically standing, we have that all secured and all the busted stuff is fixed. The unnecessary wires have been taken down to be used on the more local line here. We managed to remove quite a number of cross arms, many miles of wire, insulators, truckloads of stuff. And we have a retired lineman who's also enthused about this project. This decided to join our effort. This was part of our project of taking the abandoned phone lines down for the water department. So we got all that down. 2.2 miles was taken down. It was a bit of work. We have approximately 1 mile of line which is standing, that's secured and ready to be refitted into a reception structure, and we have all the necessary wire and insulators either purchased or glommed or dug out of the dirt or whatever to put the equivalent structure up here in the local antenna. And so that basically has completely depleted all the financing for the project. So that's the main complication right now. But we pretty much have everything we need. Mm-hmm. So I'll have to let the money charge up for a couple of months, and then when we resume the project in spring, we expect to have the local, one that's close to the building here, reception structure finished and ready for initial testing, and then in the autumn part of the project, we actually expect to be receiving signals out of the Earth. Mm-hmm. So it's all moving forward. And then the more distant antenna, the underground portion of it, we have to do testing on that, and we already have been receiving signals out of the ground on that. And we've got a lot of photographs of all this and a little bit of very small amount of video comparing AM reception underground and overground. And it clearly indicates that the bulk of AM broadcast transmission is inside the Earth, not outside the Earth.
Mm-hmm. Now with all the work that you...
quite a shock to the Einsteiners.
Right. Now, with
and
all the
we
work
also
you guys
demonstrated, but we couldn't quite get the signal strong enough to hear because Earth is pretty quiet at that point, that many of these signals that people think are originating from the Earth ionosphere waveguide and the aurora and a lot of these other things actually do not originate at all from outside the Earth. They all originate from inside the Earth, which really would be quite shocking to a lot of people that are involved in that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that further basically separates our work from the work that's accepted and in progress by other so-called researchers on the subject.
Right. So with now, you guys would have to wait till spring anyway to resume the project, wouldn't you? Just because the getting too cold and.
Well, no. After the weather this year, because there's kind of a seasonal change that's gone on. There's been more precipitation and warmer temperatures, partially because this recent surge in solar activity. So we don't get what I refer to as the NEM winds, these horrible twister winds that rage on for days or even weeks with freezing temperatures, and you just cannot go outside. It's impossible to work on anything. These winds have fingers because they're cyclonic. They're not straight, and they grab all your wire and your papers, and they're constantly tearing at you all the time. Hasn't been any of those this year at all. So other than the fact that the money's depleted and I have to recuperate, and Justin's got to get back to the things that he does, and I need to go live in the bushes for a while and all that kind of stuff. We're going to take a break here pretty soon. But the weather is not an obstacle right now, so that means we probably won't have any problem getting started with late freezes or, winds or any of that type of stuff. So probably April, we'll get right back on it.
Right. So Justin's going to be sending me a package of some photographs and maybe some videos and stuff of the work you guys have been doing. And as soon as I receive that, I'll be able to post that, either on the forum or on ericpdollar.com.
Yeah.
Everybody can kind of take a look at that. And if you are listening to this right now and you want to help Eric out, go to ericpdollard.com. And in the right side, there's a mailing address where you can send any kind of donations like checks or money orders to that address. And there's also a PayPal link or a button that you can just click on if you want to donate through PayPal to Eric and EPD Labs. And also, just so you know, if you look through any of the links on Eric's site, such as some of the books and videos like Extraluminal Transmission of Tesla and Alexanderson, Wireless Giant specific, or any of those, anytime anybody purchases any of those book or videos of Eric's from Eric's website, Eric and EPD Labs receive 70% of the sale. And that money is normally what pays for all the buildings, rent, utilities, insurance, phone, and that kind of stuff. And so that money right there is kind of dedicated to those purposes. And Eric has his own Social Security money that he uses to live on, buy food and gas money. And yeah,
basically the Social Security covers the bulk of the operating costs, but then there are a few contributors, and there's one group or person in particular who on these interviews prefers to be known as Georg Friedrich Handel, and thank God he sent some extra money this month because the building expenses depleted the account and we were not able to make our line materials purchase from the supply company, so the money he sent facilitated that. So now we definitely have all the pieces we need to put our structure together here. We're complete on that. So thank them or him for saving the day. We have approximately 90 utility poles standing out in the desert, which is a rather significant quantity of poles, and maybe in the order of 8 or 10 miles of wire to go with it, along with all the cross arms and insulator. Now, each pole, when you buy it new, costs $500.
Mm-hmm.
To dig the hole for the pole is another $500 in labor, and then another $500 is spent on that, on getting the pole outfitted in labor, and then there's another $500 associated with all the materials. Now multiply that by 80.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing $1 million project on a fraction of that, and actually moving at a reasonable rate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's something that's unique to my specific mode of functioning. I was told once by Josh Reynolds, who funded some of my research and was angry with the millions he spent on the Bearden and Puharics and all the rest of the world, and millions of his dollars they consumed. Prior to cutting off all their funding, he pointed to me and said that I've done more on food stamps than they have with his millions of dollars.
Right. And you're talking about J.R. Reynolds of the tobacco, from the tobacco company. That same Josh Reynolds. Uh-huh.
Right. So then we got these tweakers like AZAB out there saying, how we're squandering all the money and, and this and that. It's just where he gets those ideas from. Well, I kind of do know. Right. Basically, you have a reversal between the input and output ports.
Right. Well, anybody who does know who AZAB is, that's Tech Zombie of Ether Farce, which is he was born Rayam Azab Youssef and then changed his name to Ray Savant legally around 2010, and then changed his name to Mohammed Youssef. So Mohammed Youssef is who's behind Ether Force and all these slanderous, fabricated claims and money that was raised for the building. All the money went to where it was supposed to go, and Eric wasn't behind deciding where all the money was being spent. A lot of that went into the building, and when David Whittakin helped put up some money to get into that building, this tech company is claiming that $136,000 or however much is raised, and it all got blown. That's nothing but a total bunch of BS. The building is doing just fine. Not one rent payment.
Well, the thing is, if I live in the bushes, what in the hell can I blow 138 kilodollars on? Unless I'm stuffing down rat holes for them to make nests with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, only people with absolutely no common sense are going to be believing any of those type of claims when there's absolutely
no shortage of them. There's all kinds of those people, so they're plentiful.
Yeah. And those people don't matter. They're not going to make a difference in this world other than just griping to each other. But the bottom line is, on the building, with David Whittakin being the landlord and the buyer of that building, every single rent payment has always been made on time, not one single dime. There's never been a late rent payment. Whittakin has received every single payment due to him from the beginning, continues to do so, and there's other good news along those lines, which we don't have to touch base on this call. But anybody that wants that's heard these claims that $136,000 was raised and that was all blown, it's all BS.
Well, the other thing to point out too is this fallacy that I was left with some kind of complete laboratory. Which is,
it's a bare bones building. It's a garage.
Just basically, I got a bunch of junk that I can strip parts for, but I don't have a disassembly bench. I don't have any tools. I don't have any test equipment. All I got is a 110 circuit. I don't even have 220, not alone three-phase power. The places we're virtually living in the refrigerator. We put stuff in the refrigerator to keep it warm, to prevent it from freezing. So when I get up in the morning, the temperature in the building is 32 degrees. When it's a warm day, we might get it up to 48. So I can't even work on my car. It's so damn cold in here.
Right.
And, the thousands and thousands of dollars needed for shelving and electrical infrastructure, test equipment, tools. I'm estimating in order to turn this place into a usable facility, it's $125,000 still has to be spent.
Right.
That's just the hardcore reality. Like every 25-foot utility pole costs $500.
Right.
So, if you have 100 of them, well, that's 100 times $500. That's a lot of money.
Right. Yeah, and I've been to that building quite a few times, and it's definitely not any type of, fully furnished lab building, which is basically a bare bones garage with, some piles of, a few piles of glom and stuff like that, and then And that's pretty much it. So eventually, little by little, we'll be looking at raising some funds for test equipment and all that other kind of stuff, which is kind of separate from the seismic stuff, related, but a little bit separate. But the final word on it is
totally, because places needed to build the amplifiers and oscillators and all that stuff, and the cabinets, and to do the test, and plus there's a much bigger line of research going along with the Advanced Seismic Warning Project. The Advanced Seismic Warning Project is just a specific application by things that have been determined.
Right.
But, that whole idea, that stuff can go a lot farther. No one still knows exactly how these waves originate or what dimensions they're in or where they came from. And those require, very extensive antenna facilities that occupy thousands of acres.
Yeah.
And, it's just going to be two people digging telephone pole holes and dropping poles in them and have to go out and find these things, laying around out in the desert or get them, chopped off from the power company. Well, I'm 61 years old. I'm not going to live that long.
Yeah.
So I don't know, to get to the point of a full-blown research project and a laboratory and all that, to me, is a complete abstraction. Like, what does the backside of the moon look like?
Right. And those would be later stages of the project if it's able to get that far at least. But
right now for the basics that I'm looking at to take what we've already started on and really put it together good. I mean, really right with all the phase coherent intercommunications and everything. The auxiliary comp required, and all the readouts and the proper, government buildings or the power company buildings, all that type of stuff, and test signals being sent out to ships and whatever. The bottom line cost is $3.5 million. And a good chunk of that goes in the wages, because you have to pay people to do stuff.
Right.
So now we have to figure, how are we going to go about getting $3.5 million? Then, get 4 or 5 people going and, and contractors and all that, and buy stuff new, and then things move at a rate that I might live long enough to see the completion of. Right. If something else doesn't take a squat, like my eye, you have to think about all that stuff, when you get old. What kind of fun is ahead for you?
Right.
So it kind of changes your philosophy on life.
Hey, if we can,
so that's kind of, this thing with the eye has kind of set me in that position now, so I'm not, so enthused about a lot of stuff, obviously.
Right.
And plus, it doesn't look too cute outside anymore either, The creatures that you see running around that say they're human, but it's starting to become questionable.
Right.
Degeneracy.
Hey, let's take a another going another direction here. So we pretty much covered the seismic stuff, and one of them is that some people are talking about links on the forum disappearing. I just want to mention real quick that we just migrated energeticforum.com to a brand new server, which is completely built from scratch. It's brand new, and it's pretty fast because it's a newer operating system and a newer PHP and everything. Some of the old plugins with the type of URLs that were used are not compatible. So right now we're in the process of getting the forum software itself upgraded, and once that's upgraded to a certain point, then we're going to have another piece of software plugged in that will basically replace the older URL web address type links system, and it should be able to retain and preserve them. So if you go to some links out there and it goes to Energetic Forum and it's saying that they're not found, those should all be working probably here in just a couple days. So all those links will be preserved. Worst case scenario, if they're not, everything is still in the forum. Nothing disappeared. You just have to go to the right forum and look through it. But we're going to be modifying the forum so that if in that situation the links aren't going to be able to preserve, we are going to at least have them rewritten so that they're a little more, so-called friendly URLs, where instead of having just code numbers and stuff, it'll actually be using keywords of the title of the post and that kind of stuff. But anyway, we're working on that. This was a much needed transition. The forum has been online for about 7, almost 8 years now. And the old server is just so outdated, and it's just such a dinosaur. It's on its last legs, and none of the software or anything on it is supported anymore. So if you do go to energeticforum.com, you should find that it is quite fast, and we'll be working on upgrading and retaining those old URLs as fast as possible. So again, another maybe 1 day, 2 days, and then we should be completely done with all that. Another thing I want to mention is recently, I think it was maybe in early December or something like that, there was a video released called Is Eric Dollard Tesla 2.0? And that was put on YouTube by these guys from England called, their group is called Union Features, and what they do is they fly around the world and travel and meet all kinds of unique and interesting people who have interesting stories to tell about themselves or stuff that they do. And then what they do is they produce a video where they highlight these people in the videos, obviously, and interview them, and then later on they wind up writing it up like in a transcribed kind of article that gets published. And this one on Eric was recently posted on YouTube in December 2014, so maybe about a month and a half ago or so. And in that video, you kind of called out Tom Brown and Tex Gumby from who's Mohammed Youssef of Etherfarce. And
well, I have to basically describe the various things that I have to go through, so that's why those names were mentioned. It wasn't
right.
particularly to be defamatory or anything, but facts are facts, and these are problems
right.
in my life, and that
right.
was the nature of the discussion, was the life and times of Eric Dollard.
Right. And see, when they saw it, I mean, for a long time, you and I have just ignored these troublemakers, just so we can just continue our work. Do my work. You're working out in the field and doing that kind of stuff. We don't have time to work, to deal with these type of troublemakers. They've already caused enough trouble in the past. And when that video came out, then they started their, harassment and slander campaigns, and Tex Gumby is submitting fraudulent copyright notices for material that he doesn't even have rights to, all that kind of thing. But little do they know that video was actually shot in November 2013, and it was the Union Feature guys who took, 12, 13 months to finally get it on YouTube. So that November 2013 time frame is only a couple months after the conference when those troublemakers started attacking me by email, which initiated a lot of this trouble with those guys, completely unprovoked. And
well, what I found is the trouble was actually in the making long beforehand, and I was being led into it. So it was a premeditated operation. It wasn't a sudden change from one day, they're my friends, and the next day they're my enemy. This was planned all along, and they seem to have an intense hostility towards you also before the conference, and insisted that I not give a presentation, and I have no more business with you, and this and that, and got really pushy about it too. And I don't really take kindly to being pushed around, so the teeth snapped. And the teeth snapped a little too many times for those people, and they kept poking the stick at me. So then all of a sudden, after the conference, initially they made the claim that any money that I received in donations to the conference wasn't mine, it was theirs. So at any rate, the T-Rex jaws slammed shut, and the screaming and blood continues to this day.
Right. Now this Tesla 2.0 video, the original one where Eric is calling these guys out, then this is a couple months after the conference. Mohammed Youssef, which, people really need to use that name instead of Tech Zombie because his name is Mohammed Youssef, not Tech Zombie.
Actually he has another alias that I think is most apt. It's called Maldor 666.
Yeah, and that's some character from some old French novel or something like that, which was basically an anti-God, blasphemous, evil type of character who, it's completely disgusting. If anybody reads about Maldoror, the character's name was Maldoror, and Ray Savant, who is Mohammed Youssef of Ether Force, that's Tech Zombie, he went by Maldoror 666 for a long time back when he was going by Ray Savant, using the Ray Savant name. And if anybody searches Maldoror, Maldorer 666 in Google, you can find a whole bunch of old stuff that he posted, and you can see, what kind of violent past he has, how he's threatening people. There's this one bodybuilding forum where, he's claiming to be the gladiator from Manhattan and all this crap, that he's threatening to knock people's teeth out, threatening to sodomize people's mothers, who's anytime anybody had a comment against him, and also admitting to massive steroid use, so much that he needs more needle spots because he's shooting up so many steroids. And in one of the posts on that bodybuilding forum, what Tex Gumby said was, I honestly feel no rage. And then 2 posts later, he's talking about knocking people's teeth out and handing them back to him in a baggie. That kind of stuff. So, every single thing he said about me or you or anything is actually what he has done, which is classic projection. Is everything if you want to know what he's guilty of, just look what he's accusing us of, and it really doesn't get any more simple than that. But they started causing a lot of trouble, and so the Union Feature guys made the original video private, that original one where you're describing what him and Tom Brown, their past dealings, and they re-uploaded a new one which is live on YouTube. Which is Eric Dollard, Tesla 2.0, same name, and but it has about 1 or 2 minutes cut out of it, so it's edited. But if you go to ericpdollard.com and if you look at the recent posts, there's one called Tesla 2.0. The newer edited video is embedded on that page. I'm pretty sure it's probably copyrighted or whatever, but a lot of people who saw that video. There's a lot of people out there who instantly just download all kinds of videos off of YouTube right when they're on there, especially anything that you're involved with, Eric. And a couple people had uploaded these to like FileDropper and some other online file sharing places. And if you go to Tesla 2.0 link on ericpdollard.com, down at the very bottom, there's a link where you can download the original uncut version, so you can see what's basically edited out of there. So while Mohammed Youssef is constantly claiming that I'm a suppression agent and that I'm trying to censor, disinformation and all that, he's the one that's actually trying to suppress disinformation. He's completely against.
Well, that's pretty clear. If he is presently attempting, or they, Ether Force is presently attempting to get, some of my most important videos, which were the ones produced at the Tesla Society in San Francisco, if they're attempting to get these things removed off the air, then they're the suppression agents. Plus, also, I've received complaints that that when they make copies of my stuff, I either leave out my name or make other, other claims to ownership or whatever, that more astute people are starting to see that key phrases are left out of my writing, which again indicates a suppression operation going on. So there's a group of people that is 2 or 3 different groups of people that are very opposed to my work. One of them, which works through Tom Brown, is a spin-off of Rudolf Steiner, spin-off to some of his followers that believe that electricity is the most evil thing that has ever happened to mankind, and they don't want it. So why would these people be my friends? And moreover, why wouldn't they be actively involved in suppressing my work? So what we're seeing is the fruiting body of that mind state.
Sure. Yeah, recently, like for example, the copyright fraud going on by Ether Force, Mohammed Youssef as a so-called tech zombie, is on one of his YouTube pages. There was a video called Energy Defined. And what that is some writings that you originally posted in Energetic Forum, and then later that was reposted on Gestalt Reality, which is fine. He's a good guy. He's been following your stuff, and he has permission to repost that. And
and it makes it easier for people to read it that way too.
Sure. And so what happened was Mohammed Youssef, so-called Ray Savant tech zombie of Ether Force, took that paper, put it in a text-to-speech editor so it kicks out like this computer-generated voice, speaking your paper. He put that in a video, didn't even put your name on it to give you credit, uploaded it to YouTube as if it's his. And so when we found that, we sent in the illegal copyright takedown notice to YouTube to have that video removed from the EtherForce site, YouTube account, because it's complete 100% absolute plagiarism. And then once that's removed, he sends in a counter submission saying he believes it was removed as an error and all this kind of stuff, which anytime you submit a false counter notification or a copyright takedown notice, that's up to a $2,500 fine for knowingly and willfully submitting a fraudulent takedown notice, and especially when you're too gutless to put your real contact information on it. And every time he submits one, he changes his address and changes his zip code and changes his phone number. Okay, so I have a collection of probably, 1 or 2 dozen different fraudulent copyright notices from him for material he doesn't even have rights to, and every single one has a different phone number on it. So we're going to be pursuing legal action because we're sick of it. We're going to try to ignore this stuff, over the last year, but he wants to play these games, so we're going to move forward, and he's going to pay. So that's
I think
the kind of copyright fraud.
Some of this might be a result that he has multiple personalities, and these different personalities are in conflict, and they're also, erupt at various points and all this. So we're dealing with a very sick and dangerous individual. It's kind of scary, and I don't like it. Right.
Yeah. Now and then recently on my YouTube account and on your YouTube account, and I see these comments by Tom Brown that I'm sending these notices in pretending to be Eric Dollard. Isn't it true that you have basically given me permission to submit these copyright things online for you on your behalf in your name, since you don't even have a computer?
Right.
Right. So, so anytime Tom Brown or this Mohammed Youssef is making these posts claiming that I'm impersonating Eric Dollard and sending these fake notices in his name, I have full permission to do that, and the only person who has ever impersonated Eric Dollard is Ray Savant, Mohammed Youssef, Tech Zombie of EtherForce, with his original Facebook page, which was taken down because he was illegally impersonating Eric, not just moderating that page, but making posts, making slanderous remarks against me and signing it Eric Dollard to make it look like you were the one posting those when it was him. And there's a couple other accounts where he was doing these illegal impersonations, basically identity theft, in some regard. And he's the only one guilty of doing that. So, anybody listening to this, you've heard it from Eric yourself, I do have permission to submit copyright takedown notices in Eric's name. End of story. Tom Brown and Mohammed Youssef are completely lying and fabricating these claims that I'm submitting these impersonating Eric Dollard, without permission. Those are all fake. I do have permission, end of story. Now, on my YouTube account and your YouTube account, there were 3 different videos. One of them is the Eric Dollard, A History of the Marconi and RCA Station, Bolinas, California. That's an older Borderland video, which, as it stands, you're the original creator of that content. Tom Brown is in there, and then there's Borderlands. And so there's basically 3, but the bottom line is that video, The Origin of Energy Synthesis, which is a lecture that you're the original content creator of, and gave at the San Francisco Tesla Society. And the third one is Eric Dollard, History and Theory of Electricity. That video is a recorded presentation also of one of your talks, which you are the original content creator of and copyright owner of. And, the Tesla Society has rights to resell those videos, but you also have equal and undivided rights to repost and republish those videos, which I have permission to publish those on my YouTube page. And when I had the energy defined plagiarized video removed from the EtherForce site, what Mohammed Youssef did out of retaliation was he sent in 6 knowingly fraudulent DMCA, Digital Millennium Copyright Act takedown notices to YouTube, claiming that he has rights to those videos, to that Borderlands one, to the origin of energy synthesis, and history of and theory of electricity. He sent that to my YouTube account to try to have those videos removed, and he had sent in the same fraudulent notices to YouTube for your own videos on your own YouTube account. So right now, they're down, and it's going through this counter notification process, which
he's actually been successful in getting my material taken off the air.
Yeah, material that he has no rights to and that belongs to you. That is correct. But he hasn't really, they're just down for right now because the way YouTube works is when somebody sends a copyright claim, they take it down and then they give you an opportunity to send a counterclaim, stating your case. And so we're going through that process right now. And so if anybody wants to know who the real suppression agent is and who's the one that's been fraudulently sending fraudulent takedown notices, because he's claiming I'm the suppression agent, yet I just happen to own Energetic Forum, which is where your material has been posted for the last 6 years or 4 years or however long, which has been sitting there freely in Energetic Forum, my website, the whole time. So how can I be a suppression agent when all that material that you posted has been there the whole time?
Yeah, well, not alone that,
ridiculous.
And, all the presentations and the books,
right.
and the rest of it.
Right.
So, well, there's some
right.
really, the guy's got either a very sick mind or there's we don't know who exactly makes up this ether force or ether farce or whatever.
Yeah.
It'd really be interesting to get a full investigation of finding, that who's pulling the strings behind this whole thing, or is this just some kind of lone sicko?
Well, we're going to be releasing information on his entire background. There's some different individuals in the UK who I believe are associated with the anonymous hacktivist group, and I've received quite a bit on Ray Savant's background. A lot more of that stuff will be coming out, and but see what these fraudulent, claiming I'm the suppression agent, and he just made a number out of thin air that I sent something like 141 false copyright takedown notices. I've never even sent 141 in my whole life combined. To him, I sent maybe a couple dozen, but they're all valid copyright notices for material that you owned, which I had permission from you and at your request to have that removed from his websites, plus material that we published at my own conference that he not only stole and reposted on his websites, he encouraged other people to spread them around. So every single one of those copyright notices I sent for myself, my company, people that I publish, or ones that were sent on your behalf are all valid copyright takedown notices for material owned by me or you or people that spoke at my conferences. And when he's sending, having these videos removed off the YouTube, that's up to a $2,500 fine per incident when you knowingly send a fraudulent notice. And between these 6 takedown notices plus the false and fraudulent counter notice on that energy defined video, $2,500 times 7, that's $17,500 in fines right there alone. And that doesn't even include a lot of the other false notices that I have on record. And, he already owes the IRS over $50-something thousand. If you go into YouTube or Google and you do a video search for Ray Savant and IRS, you're going to see some information that Anonymous put out where they found that he owes over something like $50,000 to the IRS. And at that time, it looked like he was going by the name Ray Savant. And then right about the same time, looks like he moved addresses, changed his name to Mohammed Youssef. I don't see how he can hide from the IRS. But, $50,000, and then he's going to be owing quite a bit of money in federal fines for copyright fraud here. He's going to be racking up a bill of, which is going to be a good 6-figure bill. And on top of that, his defamation and everything else, we're looking at a potential 7-figure lawsuit against him. And, this is not if, this is when, so all this is coming together right now. And one thing I want to mention is somebody recently, or it recently came to my attention that on his website that he originally set up, which was in your name, which is basically another form of identity theft, making it look like you were behind it.
Yeah, right, my name on the air defaming me. I'm really happy about that.
Right. And he changed it to etherforce.com. And I was looking at some of this copyright stuff, and I went to the site, and I saw he's accusing me of hiring Turkish hackers to break into his website, which is completely stupid. Turkish hackers. I mean, it's beyond, the lies become more and more ridiculous day by day. And so what happened was somebody is circulating a letter stating that he sold his entire customer or membership database, including passwords, names, email addresses, and his posts and everything to somebody for Bitcoin to put some more money in his pocket, basically completely selling out his members. This is the claim anyway. And apparently this has been online for like a year or something like that, and I only found out maybe within the last couple weeks. And so in energeticforum.com, if you go to the official Eric Dollard forum, there's a new subforum in there called Etherforce, which is kind of highlighting that. There's one that says Etherforce sells out members database or something like that. And so if at any time, if you're listening to this, at any time, if you ever signed up as a member at Etherforce, I can't verify whether it's true or not, but what the claim is that he had some plug-in where he was able to actually visibly see what people's passwords were, because normally WordPress encrypts those passwords. And so it looks like he may have a copy of your passwords and email addresses and all that. So if you ever signed up at Etherforce and then used the same password anywhere else, you might want to check that database to see if your name is in there. And if so, you might want to change your passwords just out of a security precaution. I can't claim to know what's the truth behind all this, but you at least have a right to know, and for your own security, go change your passwords. So you can see that stuff in Etherforce or the Etherforce subforum inside of the official Eric Dollard forum. And like I said, we've ignored this for like a year, and so he wants to come out and start attacking and slandering us again. So I'm in a position to basically state the facts. And as long as I'm going to keep telling the truth about him as long as he keeps on lying about us. And that's going to be my policy, and a lot more information is going to be coming out. And so I don't know, is there anything else you want to mention or go over before we wrap it up? Or and I'll be getting this video on YouTube here, I don't know, in the next couple days.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you've pretty much indicated the depth of this whole thing.
Yeah,
so
that's the tip of the iceberg.
I am very disgruntled about, you type my name in the computer and then you get this definition, which fortunately has all these sick and twisted images and ramblings and whatever, so anybody with an analytical mind would see that, that something is really out of phase with this guy or whatever, but it's got my name on it. When I get depressed, like with this eye thing and whatever, then it just makes me even more depressed, and I just want to say the hell with it and not talk to anybody anymore. So this guy is, being effective in his suppression of my work and my past material, and he needs to be dealt with.
In the meantime, more information is going to be released, and people are going to see exactly who he is and what he's done. And when people see some of this stuff that's going to be coming out, the jaw is going to hit the floor. I mean, it's going to completely knock them out when they see this stuff, because it's so sick and twisted that it's, bordering on demonic. I mean, it's completely satanic.
Well, it is demonic. So, I mean, ultimately that's what makes it worthy, of scientific discussions, and somehow it fits in with all the rest of the topics like Tesla and all that, because you can actually see the disease element that's involved with all of this that prevents people from doing real work and prevents people from leading happy and productive lives. It's a disease. It's a clinical type situation that is worthy of extensive analysis. It's very educational. It's actually a fascinating subject. You can carry it even more extremes, to the real sickos, like Pol Pot and Joseph Stalin and all the rest of them. Is the sickness of the human mind and the depths and the convolutions that it goes through is just as fascinating as advanced network theory and electrical engineering, if you have that type of mind.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't really my plan in life.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll get this up on YouTube here pretty soon, and then send a notice out. And so in the meantime, like I said, we'll be upgrading those links in energetic form, so they're back to the original ones. And then again, go to ericpdollard.com, and whatever you're able to donate to Eric and EPD Labs. He's obviously making a lot of progress on the seismic project, as planned. And, actually, I think even beyond you and Justin's expectations, the amount of stuff that you guys...
Yeah, we didn't really think, that we were going to get this much done. I mean, you look at all those cross arms, going off to infinity and wires and stuff, and you're thinking, oh, God, how long is this going to take? How much effort? But it just all slid right along. I mean, it was awesome. So, the more experience you gain and the stronger muscles you get, then, it gets easier and easier as you go along until it just becomes a natural thing. There's one other thing I would like to point out in the same dimensions as suppression, but it's not active, it's passive, it's called impedance, is I have this complication now that I'm writing more material than I can get published.
Uh-huh.
And I really need, either some help with the financing or editing algebraic equations or all this stuff, because it's backed up to the point now where I can't continue to produce material. It's become constipated. I've got 3 books sitting here on the desk, and I don't know if I will live long enough to see all these things get out, because they have hundreds of equations in them. Just the book on my last presentation is going to have to be a multiple set, and will be 1,000 pages. And that's a lot of work.
Now with, that's definitely something I want to mention is, so the next book that will be published is the versor algebra book, which is kind of an outcropping from the 4-quadrant representation of electricity.
Yeah, that's the first part. So that's in 3 parts. Part 1 and 2 are completed. You pretty much have, I'd say you got about 60% of part 1 done. Part 2 will be, equally as complicated. It's got hundreds of diagrams. Part 3 I still have to write, but the thing is, it's hard for me to continue writing if I can't go back and deal with prior finished chapters. That's it becomes too complicated to try to. It's a lot of material to keep together. These are extremely complicated subjects, and if I lapse from them for even more than 2 or 3 weeks, sometimes it's nearly impossible to regain, the insights and stuff I had to get to the first point. So all this is kind of has become a problem now, and then, finally, some of the stuff that I wanted to get out on the energetic form that was a really very important part of the last presentation, which I couldn't delve into because it was too technical. I was trying to make the presentation popular and not, theoretical. But the real meaning of inductance and capacitance and how they're derived in their dimensions, John Polakowski has finally started putting those Chapter 9 and Chapter 10 of the book on the last presentation out. So that's moving forward a bit, but there's a lot of other chapters, more than 9 and 10, and there's still more that I got to get written, and it's kind of important for me to get what I have in notes and notebooks and all that in something finished that I can hold in my hand. Then I can follow the train and pick the lineup, if you see what I mean.
Sure.
For me, just to end with a chapter and start with another chapter, at some point I have to stop and I have to go back and read the whole thing, in complete isolation out in the forest somewhere and kind of tune into it, and then I pick up that carry forward vector, that will make the new chapter. Starting a new chapter is the hardest part because my mind will just go blank. And this is such a complicated subject that I don't know which direction to go either. And then, how theoretical do I want to make it? Do I want to have a lot of delays in the final publication of a finished product because extra it's starting to wear me down. And I need some kind of backup.
Okay. So the time frame on this versor algebra book is as soon as I get back that second edit from you, probably in February we could actually release that.
Okay, yeah, I've been delaying on mailing that because I've just been, screwed up and with the eye and busy and the holidays and the whole thing. But all 3 books are sitting on the desk waiting to be sent. So I just have to figure out a way to send them where they don't get screwed up or lost. But they're there, so they should be going out pretty soon.
Okay. So yeah, so stay tuned for that Versor algebra book in ericpdollard.com. A lot of the scans from Eric's original notes on that are in his blog, and they were also reposted on Energetic Forum. And those are all being transcribed into a book. Most of that first half of the book, maybe about 60% of it, is already done. And as soon as we get this package from Eric, then we're going to go through the second half. And then, so hopefully in February, look for a release date on that, for that virtual algebra book. And let's see. Now, as far as the conference, so this year's conference is on July 10th, 11th, and 12th. It's still going to be in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, but it's actually going to be downtown Coeur d'Alene instead of up in Hayden, Idaho. So it'll be in walking distance to a lot of different restaurants, the park across the street, the boardwalk. It's a real beautiful town right downtown there. And so a lot more convenient location, and it's close to a lot of hotels. And this year, there's no major events happening in the Spokane or Coeur d'Alene area, which means a lot of hotel rooms are completely wide open and available for low cost. And so for the speakers list and the schedule, we've only announced maybe half of the speakers, and already 1/3 of all the seats are already booked, and quite a few people have already sent in payments for. And so, if 1/3 of the seats are already registered, and we haven't even given a whole speaker list yet, it's going to be another jam-packed conference. And so some of the speakers are going to be, besides Eric, is going to be John Polakowski is going to be doing a talk, I believe, on the magnetic amplifier technology, which is designed by Eric. I think some of the notes on that was recently posted in Energetic Forum. Paul Babcock and Jim Murray are going to be doing another talk. I think it might be an extension on their SERPs. They might be able to show a whole lot more. Graham Gunderson, who is a funded researcher who basically was paid to analyze people's, so-called free energy claims, and has almost never found anything that held up to the claims, except maybe one thing that I can't really discuss. But he's agreed to do a talk. I don't know if he's going to do a talk on measurements or if he's actually going to do a talk on something else, which is a very interesting magnetic process. And then Al Throckmorton, who's stayed low profile. A lot of people don't know his name, but he's a very important developer in this field. Is going to be doing a talk, and will be doing a demo. And so stay tuned for their bios and talk descriptions. And so if you want to see Eric Dollard live, he's going to be doing a talk. It's going to be on like music theory and going into Pythagoras. And,
yeah, I don't know. Right now my head is just reeling from the project. So it's, awesome amount of work and material. So I'm kind of blank on it, but I have a friend in Lone Pine who's working on this with me, and he gets the books and we discuss it. And so it may turn out to be a rather abbreviated talk, which will cover two things that I posted in the Energetic Forum. One was called symbolic, or is it versor operators, I believe it was, from Steinmetz to Pythagoras backwards in time, which dealt with music as a versor subject. And then there was another one that went with that was called the Camp David antenna, that dealt with sequences and sacred geometry and those kind of things. So those are kind of going to be the seeds for all this. But it's been a long time since I've worked on those or read those books or whatever, and I don't really have the necessary materials I need. I don't have a keyboard. I don't have sheet music or other things to do experiments with. I would have to build equipment to actually generate the various ancient musical scales and stuff. So I'm looking at like an infinite project that just has me almost in shock. So I have no idea what it'll turn into, whether it'll be an abbreviation that'll last like an hour and 15 minutes, or it'll be some excruciating masterpiece that'll last 4.5 hours. Only time will tell.
Right. And a lot of people don't know that, but you actually studied music in college, and that's one of your other passions beside electricity.
Well, electricity and music are there's a lot of similarities, particularly when you get into the powers of music that were available in ancient times, to lift rocks and things for the pyramids and all that type of stuff. It's all an ether science. So basically my past presentations have basically pulled the whole thing out of the toilet bowl of physics, which believes that there's only ponderable mass and everything else is dead and lifeless and vacuous, and starting to substitute the ancient knowledge back in step by step with the four-quadrant theory, giving the theory of archetypes, and then the one on the Tesla and Alexanderson transmission system, starting to reveal the engineering of the ether. So now it's going to go, the next presentation I'll try to go a little farther with that and get more into the, the archetypes and the levels of formative forces, and it'll be less electrical but more mathematical, so to speak, but not, integral calculus or any other type of stuff. It'll be Pythagorean mathematics. And then also the sequence algebra that I developed in the book we were talking about, the versor algebra book, finally put in my mind the connection between Bach's music and polyphase mathematics, which is something that I've really been wanting to get into for a long time, and I was quite satisfied that I'd made that direct connection, and in my mind I could see them both as the same thing. Of course, I haven't worked on that in a while now, and I've forgotten that, but I'm going to try to re-energize that in my mind and also make that part of the presentation, but I have to do it in such a way that, it just doesn't become overly complicated for a popular audience and puts everybody to sleep.
Right. Well, I'm pretty sure.
But the fact that I kept everybody in a state of consciousness on the last presentation, which was a horrendous amount of material, is encouraging. That means then, people are more receptive to this stuff than I give them credit for. So, so I can up the voltage a little bit.
Right. So if you're interested in seeing Eric Dollard live and meeting him in person and seeing this presentation, come to the 2015 Energy Science and Technology Conference in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho on July 10th, 11th, and 12th. The website for that is energyscienceconference.com. That's energyscienceconference.com. And when you go to that website, even if you're not able to send in payment right away, we still got 6 months until the conference. Just go in there and fill out the registration form to at least reserve a seat. You have plenty of time to be able to send in your payment. And because like I said, already 1/3 of the seats are already booked. We limit it to 150 people. About 52 seats are already registered, so there's only 98 left. And like I said, before we really even announced the full speakers list, we're already 1/3 booked. And so that means it's going to be jam-packed. So if you want to make it to the conference, make sure you or have any intention of making it to the conference whatsoever, go and fill out the registration form and at least lock your seat in. And again, go to ericpdollard.com. And if you're able to donate any money to Eric and EPD Labs, you can send a check or money order. The address is on that site. And if you want to donate by PayPal, just click the PayPal donate button, and that money goes right into Eric's official PayPal account. And also, if you want to communicate with Eric directly, online and by email and that kind of stuff is not the way to do it. He prefers to receive a letter by the U.S. Postal Service, and there's a Lone Pine address on that website, ericpdollard.com, that you can see. And if you send a letter there, most likely you'll be getting a handwritten letter from Eric back. And so I guess with that,
I had quite a load of them this month. So I just finished about a half hour ago.
Okay.
So all total, I had to send out. I had to write 15 letters. Some were easy, and others are more difficult. So I stay on it. So if you write a letter, you're going to get a response.
Right.
Sometimes, I might have to abbreviate it and then write something more a little later because it's just too complicated or I don't have the time and energy at that point. But all in all, any reasonable questions will be answered.
Right. And another thing I'd like to mention is if you do want to write Eric a letter, just to kind of save on costs and to make it easier, include a self-addressed stamp envelope. So Eric can just write a letter, stick it in there, and because postage does cost money, and it's
Yeah,
quite
actually,
opposite.
sometimes though that creates more complications because I have to write a lot of stuff or I have to make enclosures. It's better if I have my own envelope. And actually the amount of money that people send along with the letters usually is quite adequate to cover the postage for everybody's letters. So it's a self-sustaining project.
Okay. And if you're not able to send any kind of donation with a letter or anything, maybe you can throw a couple stamps in the envelope, and that anything helps.
Well, that always helps, yeah, because the stamps
yeah.
I have to go find them, and I'm off in the bushes somewhere, and then I run out of stamps, and then I got to go back into the world again, which sometimes I don't want to do.
Right. So
I'd rather have everything all wrapped up right then and there, and then when it's time to do the dump in the mailbox, it just happens.
Right.
So yeah, sending stamps helps.
Okay. Well, Eric, we wish you a speedy recovery with your eye. Hope that gets in good shape as soon as possible, so you can get back to what you need to be doing. And other than that, I think we pretty much covered it. And I'll get this up on YouTube, and we'll be doing some more updates soon. So, anything else? Any final words?
Well, I think that's pretty much, as we say in ham radio, QRU. It's spent. We've exhausted all topics.
Okay. Well, thanks for your time, Eric, and I'll be in touch. Okay.
Okay.
Have a good night.
I'll talk to you later.
Eric.
Thanks.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Yep, bye-bye.